Y'all ready? Yes, please. All right, fantastic. Thank you for being here. It is 7 o'clock. We will start our Town of Frederick board meeting on April 25th, 2023. Megan, will you take the roll for us, please?
Trustee Lamach.
Here.
Trustee Brown.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem March.
Here.
Mayor Kreitz.
Here.
Trustee Mahan.
Here.
Trustee Taveldi.
Here.
Trustee Padilla.
Here. Great, thank you for being here. Let's stand and join each other for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, do we have any changes to our agenda this evening?
We do tonight, Mayor. Item H, which is the consideration of prosperity subdivision landscape waiver. We received notice from the applicant this morning to have it tabled until the June 13th board meeting.
June 13th, thank you. Jason Myers, do we need any board direction to do so? Are we comfortable just removing?
I think it would make sense, since it is an active agenda item, to just have the board all say their agreement or disagreement with that.
At this time?
Right.
Okay. All right, board, are you in agreement to table item H till June 13th?
Sure.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Yes, thank you. If there are any members of our community who wish to speak on item H, we will have time to do that during a public hearing on, that's correct, yes, it will be a public hearing.
I think it'll be a public meeting, so you could take comment at that time. It's not a land use application in the same way as some of the others, but certainly the board could take public comment.
All right, so we'll take public comment on the consideration of prosperity subdivision landscape waiver on June 13th. So if you have any public comment on that item, I'd ask that you save it for that date, please. And no further changes, correct? Okay, and no special presentations. Fantastic, thank you. All right, we'll move into public comment. This portion of our agenda is provided to allow members of our audience to provide comments to the town board. Please sign in and I will call you. If your comment or concerns require an action, that item or items will need to be placed on a later agenda. So if you don't mind joining us at the podium and stating your name and address for the record, Lori. Hi.
I'm sorry, I've got a really bad cold. I'm Lori Hill. I live at 2456 6th Street. I'm here to talk about the closing of the restaurant of the at the golf course and the aftermath that this is going to cause for the golf course. Maybe none of you have, but I have worked in golf courses for 8 years and know that a smooth running restaurant and a successful golf course goes hand in hand. And by taking away the restaurant access for all the many things that go on at Bella Rosa, all the tournaments they do, the kids' camps, the glow ball tournaments, the opening day, family golf day, it will make a difference. It will change things at Bella Rosa. There's been a lot of work over the last 3 years that has got that golf course running like any golf course that you would see in the metro area. And it's grown and the community loves it. And without the restaurant's cooperation, without the restaurant there to support these fundraising tournaments, nobody wants to pay $100 to golf and then get a brat and a beer and a bag of chips. That's just not how it's done. The other sad part about this restaurant closing is it brought people to the golf course. The community found out about it by sitting on the patio and saying, wow, I want to take lessons now. They would sit and watch their kids at the summer camp and how much fun that was, and buy golf clubs and buy season passes and bring their families to enjoy the activities that this community really doesn't have a whole lot of to offer for this community. So the sad part about losing the restaurant, because they were doing a fantastic job of trying to include the community as well with activities that they did. Christmas events open to the public, 80s theme for the restaurant. They all dressed in 80s. There was talk of having a luau for the summer. it's just put a kibosh on everything. And honestly, in the long run, it will change what has happened over the last 3 years for Bella Rosa. And it's heartbreaking, and it's doesn't seem to me that there were all options looked at before this decision was made. And that's what I have to say.
Thank you, Lori. Appreciate your comment. I have Mark Ferg. Is that correct? Okay, would you join us at the podium, please? Thank you.
Mayor, did I understand you to say that public comment regarding the plot development at Angel View is put off until the 13th of
Of June.
June?
That's correct, yes.
Very much.
You're welcome. Would you like to provide comment on the item now? Is that more convenient for you?
I'll come back on the 13th.
Okay. Thank you. All right, that is all we have for public comment. Are there any other members of the community who would like to share their thoughts? Okay. Thank you, Lori and Mark. Appreciate you both. All right, we'll move right into our staff reports. Jason, will you help us in sharing the admin report for Brian today, please?
Sure. In the your packet was the admin report from the town manager. I'm here to answer any questions or any further context that any of you may have. That's within the admin report.
Any questions for Jason? Such a habit. Any questions for Brian? No? Okay, very thorough. No, thank you. We'll move to our clerk report. Megan.
Thank you, Mayor Kreitz. In your packet is a copy of the clerk's report. I would be happy to answer any questions you have about that report or any other questions you may have for me.
Any questions for Megan? Okay, do you want a minute? Oh, I can share my packet with you. Does that help to jog your memory?
No.
Okay. At some point tonight, we might take a minute as a recess, and I'll share my packet, and then we can come back to it during trustee reports.
Great. Thank
Answer his questions then.
Can email it to you. I have it emailed.
The Wi-Fi is not currently working, so we're back to pen and paper today.
And I have it.
I'll share my packet with you, though, for the remainder of the meeting, if you're comfortable with that. Okay, any other questions for Megan? All right, we will move into our consent agenda. This consent agenda items are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion and vote. There will be no separate discussion of consent agenda items unless a board member so requests, in which case that item or items will need to be removed and considered at the end of the consent agenda. Would anyone like to remove any of your consent agenda items this evening? If not, and you'd like to consider those two, please request a formal motion.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to recommend approval for consent agenda as is.
Second,
Trustee Brown,
Yes.
Trustee Padilla,
yes.
Trustee Teveldi,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem March,
Yes.
Trustee Lamach,
Yes.
Trustee Mahan.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
0. Thank you. All right, let's rock and roll into action item E, please. I have a presentation. Water rate study. Okay, it's here if you need it. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
It works and I get email.
Are you?
Yep, me too.
Your internet's working.
Maybe
Want to try it one more time?
I couldn't get it out of my Dropbox, but I could get it on.
Okay.
Take mine.
You have additional one. Okay, thank you. Sorry, Sarah. Technical difficulties. Please.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and Board of Trustees. Before you tonight for consideration is the contract for the award of the water rate study.
Everyone's having type.
Google works.
Thank you. That'll help. Okay. So this item falls within the strategic plan for strategic, reliable, and sustainable infrastructure. We need to make sure that our water rates are appropriately set so we are collecting enough revenues to maintain our system and improve our system in the future. As you remember, Central World sent us information about water rate increase that would happen at the end of 2022. And in October, the staff presented some information to the board regarding the impacts of such a rate increase, and the board directed staff to move forward with a rate study. Some of the impacts of that rate increase, the rate increase is going to happen over 4 years, and how that's going to ramp up is beginning this year. There's $4,000 included in that base rate, kind of like in our base rates, we have $3,000 included. They're including $4,000, and that'll decrease over the next 4 years. And if we pay for all those increases directly out of our water fund balance, we'll see impacts on our maintenance, future capital improvements, and NISP, because we will have less funds to pay for those necessary items. The budget for the water rate study was $200,000. We shot really high to make sure we had enough funds for this rate study. The contract amount is $67,500. The consultant that we decided to go through our process of an RFQ and looking at the submittals that we had with engineering staff as well as our finance staff is Wildan Financial Services. And we have a representative here today, Kevin, if you have any questions for him. And the schedule for the study is to be completed in 6 months, and that'll allow us to have that rate update before the board ahead of our fee schedule changes by the end of the year. Do you guys have any questions?
Any questions for Sarah?
Sarah, will it take into account what we already have in our water fund? You know, I know the slide before said if we don't do something, our funds available will decrease, but will the study take into account what we already, our current, what we have?
I believe it'll take into account all of our funds as well as all of our current costs, but Kevin could explain that much better than I can.
Yes, it will. So we'll start off with what existing fund balance you have, and then what your current year budget is, and then we'll project forward based on your CIP, NISP, and then anything else that we know. The rate increase is coming, so that'll all get incorporated in the financial plan.
Yes, thank you. Any further? This is Kevin, correct?
Kevin?
It's Kevin.
Okay, Kevin.
Wielden, is that what you said?
Okay,
Wildan, yeah.
Wilden.
okay.
Saying that right?
Thank you.
Yes,
All
thank you. Any questions? I mean, you all knew this was on its way. Yes, so it shouldn't be
Yes.
pretty clear. Yep. No further questions then?
And Mayor, if I could just add for the edification of the board, we met with NISP's, some of their representatives, I think it was early last week, kind of start the discussion as that process continues to move forward in looking at what funds we have and working with the finance team as to provide some information to the board for those decisions to make how much of that fund balance should be dedicated towards buying down the cost of NISP, as it were, how much of that we want to finance. And so this is really very well dovetails into those two conversations that'll be occurring simultaneously as we try to firm up our understanding of the costs of NISP as we move forward.
Got a lot of good plans in the works.
We do.
Sounds great. All right, some direction from the board on item E, please.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to recommend approval of Resolution 23R20 to award the contract for 2023 water rate study and authorizing the town manager to execute the contract.
Second.
Second, any further discussion?
Trustee Lamach,
Yes.
Trustee Brown,
Yes.
Trustee Padilla,
Yes.
Trustee Mahan,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem March,
Yes.
Trustee Tavelli.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can say thank you. That's nice of you.
Documented, so I did. Came from the heart.
Ready when you are, Sarah.
All right. So before you again is another contract award consideration. This is for the non-potable water infrastructure master plan. This is one of the next master plans in our long list of master plans that we've been doing, starting with the water supply plans, the water efficiency plan, potable water master plan, and now the raw water master plan. Again, this ties into the strategic, reliable, and sustainable infrastructure strategic plan goal. It is a backbone of our irrigation infrastructure since we use groundwater for irrigation in town. Well, for some of the irrigation in town. This will build upon the groundwater master plan that was completed in 2008, which identified some initial public improvements. We've done quite a couple of those public improvements. Most notably is the east distribution pipe that runs basically from the west side of the lake down William Bailey all the way over to Ridgeway. That's one leg that was put in, that was identified in the other master plan, as well as the west pump station, which has one pump and it's sized for 3, so it's sized to be expanded in the future to address pressure needs as we need to expand it. Some changes that have happened since 2008. Obviously, developments have developed a little bit differently from what the master plan I had identified. Master plan always wants to show how things can develop in the best world. Sometimes there needs to be some deviations from those best laid plans, and we've seen some of those come through. As I mentioned, we've also done some water supply plans or efficiency plan, and we have the very important water court application for the Lower Boulder share change, which will increase the amount of water that we can use for groundwater irrigation throughout the town. So the budget for this master plan was $200,000. The contract amount for the study is just under the $200,000 mark. We've also budgeted for some phase 1 improvements. Those will include adding and sizing, making sure that the 2 additional pumps for the west pump station are appropriately sized for the demands on the system, as well as an improvement to increase the pressure for that east leg of the system where we're having some pressure issues. And the design and construction budget for those 2 items, the pumps and the new pressure increasing infrastructure, is $320,000. The design costs under the contract is $89,700. Through our selection process of review of the RFQs, we've selected Forest Grant Associates to move forward with the contract award. The schedule for this is similar to the potable water master plan. It's about a 12-month study period. Do you guys have any questions? We also have Will Koger here if you have any questions for the consultant.
On the infrastructure stuff, are you doing that stuff in-house? Like sizing that pump and doing that sort of stuff? Or is that part of this plan?
Trustee Tiveldi, so that's why we incorporate it into the master plan, so we can make sure that we have a good design for that stuff. We don't have the capacity to do that design with all of our other stuff going on.
Just curious.
Would you mind going back to that slide, actually, please?
Yeah.
So the phase 1 improvements, this is budgeted for design and construction, and are these improvements to the east leg and the pump that you mentioned, is that all to address just challenges we've faced with non-potable water that we've already allocated to development? So this isn't for any future development. This is for current obligations that we are fulfilling, correct?
Mayor Kreitz, it will address the pressure issues that people are having currently, but that should increase pressure for other properties that we haven't started serving, because it does serve such a large area.
Okay, thank you. Okay, sure. Thank you.
A question to you on the Lower Boulder change case, since that likely won't be wrapped up before this study is done. So this plan will take into account kind of scenarios based on likely outcomes of the case, or how does that nexus work?
Trustee Padilla, so the work that we've done with our water supply plans really addresses the supply part of the question.
Okay.
The infrastructure plan won't look into the supply as much. They'll be building off of the supply and demand work that our other consultant has done for those studies.
Okay, thank you.
And just to add, as far as the change case goes with our substitute water supply plan, generally speaking, they don't deviate much from those, although it can. But we don't anticipate that the court will reject the filing altogether and that we won't have the water. It's just a matter of when and to what quantity.
Speaking of when, if this contract is awarded tonight, I know it's, about a year process, to create the master plan, but how long does a typical master plan of this capacity last?
Mayor Kreitz, I've seen them be typically updated every 5 to 7 years. Will, you might have a better
Yeah, I agree.
idea.
That's a pretty good time frame for updating them every 5 to 7 years.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Any other questions for Sarah? Nope. Okay, some direction from the board, if not.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to recommend approval of Resolution 23021 to award a contract for creation of a non-portable water infrastructure master plan and authorizing the town manager to execute the contract.
Second.
Trustee Taveldi,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem March,
Yes.
Trustee Lamach,
Yes.
Trustee Mahan,
Yes.
Trustee Brown,
Yes.
Trustee Padilla.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Happy planning.
Thank you. We look forward to working with you.
Yeah, you as well. Thank you. Scrolling, keep scrolling. Hi, Jason. How are you?
Good, how about yourself?
Great, thank you. Ready when you are.
All right, perfect. Good evening, Mayor, Board of Trustees. Before you tonight is consideration of award for design services for the Silver Birch Boulevard, Bella Rosa Parkway intersection improvement. This fits into the town's strategic plan for strategic, reliable, and sustainable infrastructure. And this would invest in existing and future transportation infrastructure within the town. So the Silver Birch Bella Rosa intersection was recognized as a key short-term project during the town's transportation master planning process. It was a Tier 3 intersection, which would involve some widening, additional turn lanes, and full build out of the intersection, and was recognized by the Planning Action Committee for the number 3 ranked intersection within town. On February 20th, the town solicited qualifications for an RFQ for design services. 11 firms submitted to the town for this project, and the firm of JUB Engineers is recommended for award. Design elements of the intersection design process will include ultimate intersection improvements, and this will be a preliminary design of the intersection. It won't be the one that was built, but we'll at least prepare for it. This will include auxiliary turn lanes, left, right, as well as ADA curb ramps, sidewalks, pedestrian crossing facilities, and these will also include drainage improvements. Some of these will be phased out currently just because of the location of the intersection. Right now it's about a half mile from any other sidewalk, so it really doesn't make sense right now to build those sidewalks, but we'll at least have that for future use. The interim design and constructible one will include left and right turn lanes at the intersection, as well as improved drainage infrastructure, as well as signalization of the intersection itself, being currently a 4-way stop sign controlled. Upon future development, the design of the ultimate intersection can be handed to the developer and have them build what we have already identified. Financial considerations of the project. The design services contract for JUB Engineers is $339,832. The town did budget $300,000 for this project, so it is a little bit over. The town has the option of awarding the contract, to reject any and all, and negotiate a new scope, or to rebid. And that is it. Are there any questions?
Jason, my question revolves around the budgeted that we put out there, 300,000 versus the 339. Where are you going to get, if we can approve this? Where are you going to get the extra $40,000?
So we do have budgeted funds available for the Colorado Mill and Overlay, $800,000 that isn't going to move forward this year. So there are funds within that we could draw from. Of course, with construction occurring at the intersection of Colorado and 52, the scope of that project would decrease. So the total funding amount would decrease as well. So we'd be able to get funds from that within the Street and Alley Fund as well.
Was there no way to scale back the scope a little bit, considering like those sidewalks and things? I mean, you kind of pushed it as far as you could push it.
Right. Yeah. The original contract amount was for about 370,000. So we did negotiate back slightly.
Lisa and I'm gonna pretend it's a question. It's not a question. It's a statement, if you don't mind. But Bella Rosa in particular happens to be a road in which many community members in the Johnson Farm neighborhood and several others talk a lot about traffic control and speed on Bella Rosa. Is there anything that we could implement now in this phase to help us, in the finalization phases, to add as a deterrent for speed on Bella Rosa?
With the intersection improvement project specifically, not specifically at the intersection. Obviously, being stop sign controlled is a little bit different than being signalized. We can definitely look at options for speed control, but within the scope of the project, we didn't include speed management.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
That was my next question was, there's a lot of truck traffic in that intersection between Colorado and the frontage road, and even on out to Aggregate. What is going to be done to prevent that future damage, or what can we do, or suggestions you have to prevent the future damage to the road? I mean, I don't want to invest in something that is going to be torn up within the next year or so before we widen that road or before more development comes in.
Well, with the project, there will be a geotechnical investigation. So they will do subsurface study of the soils and then design appropriately to our standards for an arterial roadway to make sure what we are investing in will hold up to the truck traffic. Bella Rosa is identified with DRCOG as well as the town as a primary arterial. So that gives us an idea of what to design to in order to incorporate the truck traffic that's on that road.
We don't currently have a strong enough policy in place for that. So I do believe we have a work session scheduled or to be scheduled to discuss weight and things like that on our vehicle capacities.
Yeah, that's correct. And then another piece of our overall larger impact fee analysis is to looking at what we should be charging for that heavy vehicle use weight.
Yeah, that might help in that conversation too then. Yeah.
And I'm sure there's nothing they can do, but coming down that darn hill going west,
Just pick up speed.
everybody slides through that intersection in the bad weather. I don't suppose there's anything we can do to fix that, huh?
At the golf course or just east?
No, just at this intersection.
At this intersection?
Come over the hill in the morning and it stays frozen and you just slide right through the intersection. But
Well, as part of the design, of course, they'll take into the vertical curves. So they'll have to meet those requirements with AASHTO. So hopefully that would help a little bit.
there's nothing.
Right. Might be a good opportunity too to provide some education to the community on, when we implement traffic lights versus stop signs and what a four-way stop versus, light traffic and things like that looks like and why we haven't met the threshold to put in a traffic light at this point yet.
Yeah.
If you don't mind preparing that at the same time that you have this being implemented, I would appreciate that.
And I'd like to clarify, it would include in the interim design signalization.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
Even in this phase?
Yes.
Wow, okay.
So in the ultimate, we'll determine where those signals need to be placed so that we do it just once. And then the interim will have those ultimate signals put in place. So
Okay.
it will be signalized.
That's helpful.
Yeah.
Thank
Sorry, I
you.
didn't make that clear.
That's okay. That will help with speed.
Allow for crossing and everything with that, even in the first phase?
For pedestrian crossings, that's the element that would be,
That would be the
taken out.
future,
Yes, yeah, since the nearest
Yeah, I
street.
just,
Yeah,
There's-
We've certainly done that before where we've added the crosswalk, but it just doesn't go anywhere.
connect. Yeah,
So it doesn't really make a lot of sense.
where? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So appreciate you holding off on that till it has somewhere to go.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for Jason? Nope. If not, some direction on item G, please.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to recommend approval of Resolution 23R22 to award a contract for the design contract of the Silver Birch and Bella Rosa intersection improvement project and authorizing the town manager to execute the contract.
Second.
Motion and a second.
Trustee Mayhem,
Yes.
Trustee Lomack,
Yes.
Trustee Taveldi,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem March,
Yes.
Trustee Padilla,
Yes.
Trustee Brown.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. All right. Item H. Jason, may I ask, and if this is not appropriate, Jason Myers, let me know. Would you mind sharing, and I failed to do so earlier in the meeting when there was a gentleman here to speak on item H. I recognize that we tabled that item to June 13th. We did not discuss why. Would you please just share briefly, that the applicant was part of the conversation of tabling this item?
Yes, we received an email this morning from the applicant. They were offered to attend tonight's meeting via Zoom. Actually wanted to be here in person, so wanted it to be tabled till the June 13th meeting so they could be present in person.
Thank you. I will reach out to Mr. Ferg and let him know that. Thank you for sharing. All right, item I. Please. Jason and Ryan. Jason, and Ryan. Hi.
I guess if I could
Here,
just jump
trustees.
in real quick, because I helped draft the memo that provided kind of just all the backdrop. We don't have a presentation today because we kind of gave you all of the numbers, and I wanted to turn it over to the board to have that discussion as to what you'd like to see moving forward. Backing up and paraphrasing for the public who may not have the memo, just briefly, in 2017, we worked with the fire department on one of their facilities and waived the majority of the fees that were due to made it a flat $2,500. The fire district approached the town again in that same spirit of collaboration to discuss what that would look like. And so we received some direction from the board and then looked at what that waiver would be in today's terms with today's fees, and it was quite different than 2017. And so that's why we wanted to make sure the board had all of the information and opportunity to make an educated discussion and then decision and direction on what you'd like us to implement for this waiver.
Thank you. Hi.
Mayor,
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Great, thank you. Do you have anything in addition to our board packet or our memo to share with us tonight, or?
No, actually, I know I was here in 2017 when we did it the first time, and I know it was, I believe, Jason, correct me if I'm wrong, was the town wanted to collect their personnel fees, and that's where that figure came from. So we were just asking again, so
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Stick around, there might be a few questions if you don't mind. Okay. I'll ask that first. Do you all have any questions to start? And if not, then maybe we can move on to a discussion. No?
Good.
Okay. Maybe we'll call you back up if we need any.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you. All right.
Didn't create a wheel that we could just, that's my fault.
Start the discussion.
No, I remembered what it was after I looked.
Oh, okay. All right.
I was looking at our liquor authority list.
Oh, wait, hold on. We're still on this item, on item
Oh,
I.
Oh, sorry.
Will you hold that first?
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
you wrote it down.
My apologies.
Yes?
I just had something here, but it's taken care of.
No worries. 2 more minutes. All right, so
Sorry.
no, you're just fine. Don't worry about that. All right, we are considering a building permit fee waiver for the Frederick Firestone Fire Protection District. As Jason mentioned, we do have a memo, and within your packet, what that fee looked like in 2017. It is a bit different, as he mentioned. So it is all your prerogative at the moment to have a discussion and a potential resolution relative to your support or not on a fee waiver. Anyone willing to share their initial thoughts?
Just very different from 2017, and the statement is the sales. A large portion of this total includes sales use tax that we are not able to collect, which represents 157,500 of that total. Can you explain more background or context for that?
Right. So as a governmental use, when they go to build their facilities, they would be exempt, much like we are, from paying sales and use tax. So I use those two terms simultaneously, although technically speaking, they're very different, but more or less they're the same, right? So when you go to the lumber store or otherwise to buy the materials to build it, typically you would take your building permit, whether you're in Longmont, Boulder, wherever you're shopping from, and you'd provide them your building permit saying that I've already paid my use fees, and so you'd get tax exempt at that point. Yeah, in a normal process. So because it's the fire district and us by as well, they wouldn't be required to pay use tax at all. So the reason I put that in there is to just kind of show if this was a private development, what would be the total that the town would be receiving. But because it's not, I didn't feel it was appropriate to necessarily lump it in with the fee waiver generally, but I wanted the board to be aware of what that difference would be for a similarly priced private development.
Park improvement fee has not changed since 2017. That's why.
6 years.
Mm-hmm. You can change it when you want to.
Yeah.
Hmm? Yeah.
In regards to some of the other fees, building permit fee, plan review fee, some of those things are indexed to our costs to administer them. Some of them go beyond that. Stormwater capital fee, road impact fee, public safety fee, electrical permit. Some of at least those three are things that we collect to offset the costs of providing that infrastructure throughout the community. Some of these other things, the fire department wouldn't necessarily use the parks and open space like a traditional development might. So just kind of flavor of what these things consist of.
It seems like to me in 2017 they just said, $2,500. There wasn't a whole lot of evaluation of that.
Comment.
It doesn't really match anything in the list of fees.
Right, and so the 2017 is in the memo it states it's what's calculated. We kind of tried to retrospectively do what that would have been to the best of our knowledge, but the folks involved in the process weren't here for that.
Because my comments would be that, the out-of-pocket kind of cost for us to do it is where I feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And beyond that, maybe willing to do some of that, but, it still costs us quite a bit of money to do it. And whatever that amount or near that amount seems logical.
Yeah, agreed. Because, per your comment, then Trustee Taveldi, like the building permit fee, which in 2017 was $8,000 and in 2023 is now $34,000. Most of that is relative to staff time. Is that correct? The resource itself is the staff time and the planning and implementation of
That's
the project.
a great question. I don't know the answer to, because I haven't been involved in how the building fee was calculated or set. I don't know, Jason, if you know, or Allie, if you have an idea, or Brian.
I would guess it's the plan review fee. That's more the staff time. But
It could be. It could be. To go along with your point, Trustee Taveldi, I mean, we've been, as a board, very consistent, you know, when we're talking about waivers of fees, that we've been very firm on not removing the public safety fee from any development. So I would also like to ask the board to support keeping that as that is an initiative you asked the community to support at one point. I'd like to respect that. That needs to stay there.
Madam Mayor, Board of Trustees, I appreciate the opportunity to comment before you this evening. The fees that you see that Jason was able to, it was kind enough to sort of coalesce, came from an estimate that was prepared out of the building division. As it relates to fees specifically related to like the building permit, the electrical permit, those come straight out of the International Building Code. There's a fee schedule in there. That's a table that says if your project costs this much, this is what the fee is. And so it's not something that Frederick sort of made up on our own. It's a unified kind of schedule that's adopted when communities adopt that series of building codes, which is all the communities pretty much at this point. So that's where those fees came from. The things that you really saw kind of ratchet up were sales tax related, which we kind of already have addressed that. I think Trustee Padilla brought that up. But you're right, there's quite a shift from 2017 to today, present day. And the only other comment, I was just talking with our planning manager at the back, who was here in 2017, because I acknowledge I wasn't here in 2017, is I think the only formula that was used is trying to quantify the amount of staff time that would be used to do the plan review. And somehow they landed at a number of $2,500, and that was therefore decreed that that's the number that shall be used for that project at that time. So, you know, we've shifted going forward to now we do flat fees on everything because as we discussed late last year, it turns out we were over collecting in like nearly every case and having to give money back to developers. And so that's just something that I'll add in there for context as well.
And would it be appropriate to say that the building permit fee is listed, calculated off the total cost of the building, is intended to cover a larger building requires far more inspections and involvement by the building inspector to be out there in the field?
Yeah, it does. Versus, I know that in some cases the fire district has renovated a building as well, and there's not as much there because it's not necessarily a from starting from scratch type of situation, right? As far as the foundation and the grading and everything, you still have your same series of inspections, but there might not be as many of them as you go through that when you're building a brand new building that's currently from nothing. So it does include that and sort of the staff time associated with doing those inspections. Yeah, that's an important clarification. The types of inspections don't change. You usually have a rough electrical, plumbing, mechanical. You're going to have that with a new building. You're going to have a final version of all those inspections as well. You're going to have framing. So the types of inspections are the same. It's just the how many of them usually changes as you scale up on a building.
Do we know what other towns do?
Well, other towns,
History
as far as the policy working with other like special districts.
No, like a new firehouse in Longmont. Do they reduce the building permit fee significantly?
Well, that's something that we could, as staff, absolutely look at. We'd probably look at comparable communities that have fire districts rather than municipal in-house fire departments, because in municipalities where that's internal, those fees are usually really truly a wash because it's an internal department.
I think
We're split.
to your point, to some degree, is looking holistically at the fire district receives revenues from the taxpayers, half of which, give or take, are Frederick residents, half of which aren't. And so, in essence, by charging the fees, you're taking money from the tax base and turning it back to the town. It's the same people paying the fees, whether it's
That's what I
waived
figured,
or not.
but that's some of these things, and others of the things are not that way. But
Right, but the range of the fire district is beyond our boundaries, and so I've seen in similar instances in other communities where I've worked, where you're talking with the school district as an example of who should be paying for this and whether or not it's redundant to have the school district pay fees, but the school district boundaries collect from everybody, not necessarily the town limits.
That's the,
Generally speaking, there is waivers and breaks that are contemplated. The degree is probably different in every place.
And that's consistent with what I've worked with school districts and other special districts in every community. It really is all over the board. It's really the prerogative of the elected body and what their policy is on that. The only other thing that I would add is there are other fees that the fire district is paying that are not fees we collect because of where this fire station is being built. It's subject to left-hand water fees, and those are all things they're going to have to cover separately. So there's no contemplated discounts or waivers or anything as it relates to water. That's still a pretty significant chunk too.
Is one option, in the alternatives options that you gave us with that total percent reduction, where we preserve the public safety fee, and then staff, we do a total percent reduction and allow staff to figure out where the best use of that reduction lies, but we give direction that we preserve, the public safety piece of it.
I think it's the prerogative of the board, and yes, that is an option for you. Yes. Megan, you had an item.
Mayor Kreitz, just for historical context, I did find the AM for the fee reduction, and it looks like what was presented for consideration of the board was construction costs valued at $2 million, and the estimated cost if no fees were reduced was $41,547.63. It was the prerogative of the board, but the option that was suggested was 100% reduction because the impact financially would only be soft costs related to staff time to conduct site plan review and building inspections. And so staff recommended that a flat fee of $2,500 be charged to recover some of the staff time for those review and inspection costs. At the time, it was felt that it was an indication of the town's goodwill for the fire department.
Okay, that's hopeful. Thank you.
The significant contributing factor there is you had a project cost of $2 million and we're north of $10 million now, right? So that is a really big difference in scale as well. And that's just market stuff. And I think that probably number is even higher as you got your contracts come in, right? You're closer to 13, aren't you?
We were planning when we were going for the bond, when we were getting preliminary numbers, it was around that $7 million mark. But by the time the bond goes through and you finally get everything done, land deeded, and we started moving forward and got the actual numbers, it was up over north of 10 million. And a portion, probably about a couple million of that is the foundation. Frankly, that's because that's on that area over by Windham Hill where the coal mining is. So you have a lot of mine subsidence. So we have a pretty substantial amount of money just in foundation, just to keep it stable.
Is the footprint similar then?
Yeah, Station 4 was just over 12,000 square feet. Station 5 is basically the same type of a concept, and it's roughly about 15,000. So it's a couple thousand more square feet, larger bay space, and a few more bedrooms because we're, the location, planning on putting more apparatus there in the future to staff more folks.
Mm-hmm. All in all, to improve response times.
Well, I'm trying to a larger community room on it as well.
Right. Yeah. Okay. That's helpful. Thank you. I don't believe, let's see, there were, I respect that you all wrote staff defers to the board on the level of reduction the board feels is appropriate. Thank you so much. That
Didn't decide, and so we thought,
Good news is there's no wrong answer here.
Right.
And logistically, there was a question about, if you give us a direction on a percentage of reduction, can we apply that to specific line items? That's easy enough to do in our financial software to go ahead and do that. I think our town attorney addressed the tax exempt status of the fire district because it's you can't give it back if you don't collect it. So I don't think you have to worry about specifying that if it's tax exempt. So that's one clarity that I can offer as well.
Yeah, that's helpful. I mean, realistically, if we were to inquire about, I suppose the challenge is we don't want to de-emphasize the importance of the staff time. So if we remove all, if we waive all fees, that in some ways makes it seem that we don't value staff time in this process. That's not the case. So how do you quantitatively assign a dollar amount or a waiver in that regard? How do you balance those? And so would you recommend that a percentage would get us closer to that philosophy that we just want to be made the best of our ability whole, maybe not in necessarily the staff time, but if we are to have to pay something, let's say it's stormwater fees, how can we make sure the town of Frederick is whole?
So I think in how you approach the scenario, you can answer the question, because the town residents of Frederick are already paying for this in one way or another. So if they're paying into the fire district and then the fire district is paying the town, the same people are paying for the bill. And so by reducing it in this case, because this is money coming out of, generally speaking, at least half of our citizens, there's the Firestone piece of it, but this is located in Windham Hill, and we've heard from the fire district over the years that I've been here, rightfully so, that it's all one entity, interchangeable, etc. But so to the extent that the citizens of Frederick have already paid for the staff time, whether they pay it to the fire district and the fire district, we reduce the fee so it's not paid twice.
Yeah.
It's all the same.
Mm-hmm. You're not concerned about that perception, but is there any dollar amount of fee that the town of Frederick will pay on behalf of this building to another entity?
Aren't like electrical
right
done by the state?
So we're lucky because we actually have an electrical inspector. There's a master electrician on staff, and he does all the electrical inspections. So we don't contract that out. So we're not out any hard costs associated with that. And, another thought that maybe gives some clarity is, the board already has kind of crossed this bridge in the past when you all adopted the town incentive policy in the fall of 2020. You already went through a lot of these same line items that, because they're the ones we control that aren't pass-throughs, and gave authority to kind of grant reimbursements back to a business in that case. And so, we've kind of done that before, and it's not that dissimilar. In this case, it's just another special district rather than a primary employer out there in the community. And many of those that you've seen have been in the 75% range. Those are reductions or those reimbursements that have come through. So that's, I don't know if that helps or just clouds things for you, but I mean, we have addressed this before in other cases.
But couldn't you just made that recommendation?
Yeah. Where were you 7 days ago, man?
Call me saying it in those words.
I agree with you, Ryan, that we've discussed this before. I think that this is a more political conversation than anything. So I respect that this is a board decision. I appreciate that the board thus far, the past few years working together, has been very supportive of projects like this, very supportive of the Frederick Firestone Fire Protection District. I don't anticipate that any of you stopping at any point in time, but would you please share with me if there are any costs associated with this permit or waiver that the town would pay for, that a fee applied to this development would need to be applied to make it whole? Can you tell me that right now?
I think the only out-of-pocket expenses that we've had have already been reimbursed, and that's with our outside counsel, land use counsel, and I verified that there might be a couple $100 left in that fund, but that's not contemplated in here. Okay. The rest of it, I think, is internal. Yeah. There is the potential lost opportunity for stormwater capital projects and things that those fees go towards, but certainly that's up to the board to determine.
That helps me, though. Thank you.
That's just shifting money.
Right. One bank to the other. Yep. Do you all need a moment to consider this? Or anyone have a recommendation?
question on the public safety fee, that's one of those scenarios where it's paid twice by the public, by the citizens, right? That you're talking about then.
Right, so a taxpayer in Frederick has had their property assessed. It goes to the fire district. Those monies are then going to the town of Frederick to provide those services. And I don't know exactly what all of the public safety fee goes to pay for, but that's the gist of it.
So that fee ends up back there. Interesting.
I don't think a new firehouse will create a lot of criminal issues for our police department to go respond to.
Yeah. Those firemen, I can tell you some stories.
You get out of control from time to time.
Too much barbecuing or something.
Anybody got a number?
So I'd feel comfortable doing what was done before, 90%.
Thank you.
90% reduction. Option 1, 90%. Any feedback on that?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was looking at too.
Okay.
It was 91% before.
Yeah. Round it
What a
to
one-up
like
for-
an even 0 number and whatever percent that is.
It is an action item, so if you all would like to discuss it, or if you'd like to wait for a motion, you can. And then discuss it from there.
What are we gonna reduce? Looking at this chart, what numbers are we gonna reduce?
I think it has been recommended that if you went with option 1, a total percent reduction, and staff can configure the table from there and allocate the funds from there.
Less sales tax since they're tax exempt.
We're really looking at the 117 number.
Right.
90% of it.
Right.
Wait a minute, 117.
And I'll follow Ryan's lead and potentially cloud it, but also clarify it a little bit. This is based off of the $9 million. If that building price has changed since then, it would be
Very little.
90% of that.
Yeah, the last numbers we received, I think the fire district had totally finished awarding contracts to subs, so we were just going off of a round number that came from the fire district. We would true that up.
Yeah, you'd collect that. If you reduce 95, that's about, or 90%, that's about 100.
Okay, can I ask that you share that as a motion, please? Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to consider a building permit fee waiver for the Frederick Firestone Fire Protection District of 90%.
Second.
Motion in a second.
I could clarify, is that's for all of the line items at this point.
I was.
Yes. Except for the exempt taxed stuff.
Minus sales
Perfect.
tax. Any further discussion? How quickly could we potentially see what that number looks like?
Got a good number? You got a final number?
I do at the office.
Okay. Okay. We can work that out kind of over the rest of the next week and get it to you. It's a follow-up.
Thank you. All right, motion's on the floor. No further discussion. Please.
Trustee Padilla?
Yes.
Trustee Mahan?
Yes.
Trustee Lamach?
Yes.
Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem March?
Yes.
Trustee Taveldi?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Sure. Yes, thank you. Thanks for everything you do. Okay, that is all the business of the board, minus trustee reports and an executive session. So, any trustee reports at this time? Yeah, thank you. Now you can have your
Yes.
question.
Yes, I was going through the liquor licensing expirations and so forth, and I saw one on there kind of threw me off. Was Pete's Place. they still are applying for liquor license.
They're just maintaining it.
They're just maintaining the liquor license is all they're doing.
So Mayor Pro Tem March and Mayor Kreitz, a liquor licensee may maintain their license because it's a property right at the discretion of the local authority, even if they're not open. And part of the reason that they maintain it is because it makes the property more attractive if they're trying to sell it, which I have knowledge that that particular licensee is looking to sell that property. And if the license is already on it, any new operator could come to the licensing authority and request a temporary permit, which would allow them to operate faster than going through and then go through the transfer process. But they'll be able to begin operation, serve alcohol under that temporary permit for 180 days while they're going through the transfer. So it means they can start operating sooner.
Gotcha. Okay.
Hopeful.
Outstanding. Do we have anybody making any offers, do you know?
My understanding is that there was an offer and they were ready to close, and the current operator decided that he wanted to wait for a different offer. So there's things moving, but no final closing at this
Gotcha. All right. Thank you.
I just needed to bring up too that I spent some time around Millivac again last weekend, and that lake just looks extremely clean. So really nice work. There is no odor, and it is super clean. So see more people fishing than I've seen there in a long time. So good work on that thing. I think I'd jump in it, you know.
Wow.
Dirty it up a
Which-
little bit.
Next Tuesday. No.
I would have never have done a couple years ago.
Yeah, pictures where it didn't happen.
No, nobody wants to see me jump in there.
Yeah, that's nice. Anybody else?
No.
Remind the board, Megan, we do have a few opportunities coming up. We have a Legacy Elementary here on Thursday. Is that correct?
Thursday, I believe they start at 9:30. And they'll be going to the fire station, here for a mock board meeting. They'll go to the police department and then the museum, and they'll do touch a truck in the park. So that's pretty much all morning. They get done about 12:30.
Is there anyone going to the help center
Yes.
regalia? We're gonna go. So
Megan,
That's
you
at
might have
4.
noticed that already. Is that correct? The Help Center anniversary.
I will notice it in the morning.
Great, thank you.
I was gonna maybe stop too if it worked into my schedule, but
We have time, yes? Remind me the date of that?
it's this Thursday.
Thursday at 4.
Thursday at 4
And
o'clock.
we have enough time.
We do.
All right. You can all be there then.
Yep. We are.
I'm going to the
Oh,
Legacy.
bring 3 cans of food
Legacy.
too.
Okay.
Everybody bring 3 cans of food they want. So, or more.
Okay. Got it. Thank you. Okay, anything else? All right, if not, I would like to recommend that we go into executive session following a short recess. Executive session for the discussion of a personnel matter under CRS Section 24-6, 402-2F, and not involving any specific employees who have requested discussion of the matter in open session, any member of this body or any elected official, the appointment of any person to fill an office of this body or of an elected official, or personnel policies that do not require the discussion of matters personal to particular employees regarding the town clerk annual evaluation.
So moved.
And in a second.
Trustee Tivaldi,
yes.
Trustee Mahan,
Yes.
Trustee Lamach,
Yes.
Trustee Brown,
Yes.
Trustee Padilla,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem March.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
All right, let's take a 10-minute recess, reconvene for that executive session, please.